Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome. We're here for day 10 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. And today we're going to be discussing alcohol and other drugs. We're going to get to know a couple people, Reggie and Jackie, and then I'm going to tell y'all some stories about this one crazy spring break, right? But I'm also going to give you a little bit of background on me because I had a bit of a drinking problem myself, and it was months before I realized what I was doing because, you know, it's what people do. We make mistakes and we make them huge. All right. So let's jump into today's assignment. And just real quick, hi everybody. Hope everyone's having a great day. But remember, this is day 10. And that means we've only got 5 more live streams to go. And then the final assignments, that's just going to be all in and of itself for that last class. Because it will take you a couple hours to finish that up. And y'all are done. So you're getting there. You're almost there. Right, just one more week, folks. We got this. Thank you so much for joining us for this. Let's rock and roll, right? All right, so alcohol and other drugs. Now, since y'all aren't in person, y'all don't have to take no quiz. So let's just go over the information you should know. All right, so what are the 8 different shapes and what do they mean? The octagon, the pentagon, the equilateral triangle, the circle, and the pennant are all single-purpose signs. They tell you to do one thing, so even if there is no paint visible, we still obey those, right? And the octagon says stop. Pentagon lets you know you're in a school zone. Equilateral triangle is a yield sign. Horizontal rectangle and vertical rectangles both provide information, either on what's coming up or the rules of the road for your area. The circle is that railroad crossing. The diamond sign is always warning you about something. And the pennant is the handy-dandy latest and greatest no passing zone. All right, folks, do not pass if you are in a no passing zone. It's just not safe. It's going to take too long. You're going to get in trouble. All right, now what are the 8 different colors and what do they mean? Well, red means stop, yield, or prohibited. Yellow is warning, proceed with caution. Green, those are guide signs. Black and white are regulatory. Orange is construction and detour. Okay. Blue is motorist services, and brown is public recreation, cultural interest, historical districts. All right? Now, name the 5 parts of the Smith system. This one's easy. We aim high in steering. Aim that vision, take in as much of the road as you can, and see everything. Keep your eyes moving. Every time there's a change in the environment, we scan inside, outside driver, outside passenger, back forward. If you got to take more than a couple seconds on one in particular, because something's going on, then you go back to center before continuing on, just to make sure we know what's going on ahead of us, because we need to get the big picture. We need to see what's happening all around us, otherwise we can't stay safe. Now, we always make sure others see us. Don't hide in anybody's blind spot. Don't be driving where they can't see you. Don't be following too closely on those big box trucks, because they can't see you. They can't do things with you in mind, right? They might change lanes into you or brake suddenly when they weren't able to because you were there. And then always leave yourself an out. Never allow yourself to become completely surrounded in traffic unless there's no other option, because then you have nowhere to go in case of emergency. Excuse me. Now, what does IPDE stand for? IPDE is identify potential risks and hazards. Predict how they may affect you. Decide what the best course of action is, and then execute. Put your plan into action and stay safe. All right? Now, list the steps for a proper lane change. First, we signal. Always signal first so that everything else takes up some time, because we need to signal for a minimum amount of time before lane changes or turns. So signal. Check your mirrors. Inside, make sure that somebody not behind you right there. Outside, the direction of the lane change. Blind spot, direction of the lane change. And then drift. Drift into your new lane. Once you are completely in your lane and in control, then we turn off the turn signal. What is the difference between a white line and a yellow line on the roadway? White lines, when you cross a white line, the lane is traveling in the same direction. When you cross a yellow line, the traffic is traveling. The traffic is traveling in the opposite direction. All right, so cross a white line is safe, cross a yellow line, danger. 7. What is the difference between a broken line and a solid line? Broken line, that's an open gate inviting you to cross, inviting you to pass in that area. Solid lines, they are telling you, you shall not pass. I hope Gandalf isn't too old a reference because Lord of the Rings is still an awesome series. Watch it if you haven't. All right. How long does a full stop last? A full stop is at least 3 seconds. Now, if it takes 7 seconds for everything to become safe and clear and for you to be able to go, then that's how long you're going to wait. Okay? If you see that everything is awesome within the first second, it doesn't matter. Okay? We take a minimum of 3 seconds, but we will take more when necessary. It's that simple, folks. All right? We don't get to just be like, 1, 2, 3, go. Because what if there was someone already in there? Oh, well, too bad for them? No, we have to make sure that everything is safe. And that means even when, no problem. Even when we can tell that everything's fine right away, we still wait those 3 full seconds. Why? Because we do. Because that's the law. Those are the rules. Right? Now, what's the difference between slowing down and stopping? Slowing down means you take your foot off the accelerator. That's it. Take your foot off the gas, cover the brake. That is slowing down. Stopping is pressing the brake. That's the difference. Right? And then number 10, what are the different gears in an automatic vehicle? Remember Prindle. Park makes the vehicle stay still. Reverse makes the vehicle go backwards. Neutral lets you move the car without the vehicle being on, and it disengages the engine from the transmission. Right? Also lets you turn the car on and off while in motion. Drive for going forward. Low gear for maximum torque, maximum power on a takeoff, going uphill, or pulling something. Okay? Now, best DUI stop we can no longer watch, and I hate it. It's a Comedy Central show called Reno 911. All right, and what Reno 911 is it's about a law enforcement agency from Reno, Nevada, where Las Vegas is. And so they deal with regular law enforcement stuff, but it's Comedy Central, so it's funny. One second, let me skip past it. There we go. All right, so we're just going to hold there, and I'm going to talk to y'all about that because it actually does serve a very good purpose, and there's a great reason that we have it kind of in the mix, or had it in the mix. And here's the deal, folks. All right, so this gentleman gets pulled over, very standard looking, New Mexico cowboy looking older guy, big old mustache, cowboy boots, jeans, that Western shirt, nice beaten up weathered hat. And the lady's pulling him over, the female officer's pulling him over because she suspects that he may be intoxicated while driving while intoxicated, DWI. All right, so what happens? She asks him if he would perform a field sobriety test. Now, that is their go-to. Okay? A field sobriety test is that one where you stand on one foot, you say the ABCs backwards, you'll walk the straight line, heel to toe, you'll lean back and touch your nose, things like that. There's a whole bunch of different things that they use for that. But what that is that's law enforcement's giving you an opportunity to prove that you are coordinated enough to be driving without going straight to breathalyzer. Because if they go straight to breathalyzer, even if you're okay, even if you were fine and there was no issue as far as your condition goes, if the breathalyzer says you're at point, in Nevada, I think it's 0.1. If you're at that legal limit, though, you're going to get arrested. And the sobriety test is to check to see if you're okay before they go in that direction, because they don't want to arrest you. They could go straight to the breathalyzer, they really could, but the field sobriety test is them physically checking, is this person okay to be driving? If they are, I'm going to let them go. So it's a courtesy. People don't look at it that way, but it really is. You're giving them the opportunity to say, yes, I've had a couple drinks, but I can handle my stuff. I'm okay. I'm still good to drive. So this guy goes through the field sobriety test, and 1 foot, and like a champ, no wavering, no balance issues. I can't hold my foot level 6 inches off the ground for 30 seconds like they want. And it's nuts. But the guy does it perfect. And then she's like, okay, say the ABCs backwards. And he says it in a way backwards that you can even hear the inverted melody of A, B, C, D. You know, you hear it going backwards and you hear that music in your head. It's kind of awesome. And it's almost like a superpower, really. And I'm just really impressed. And then she has him walk the line. And then because it's a comedy show, they start going above and beyond. He's walking the line and she's like, all right, now it's okay. So as you're coming, it's bump, bump, step, bump, bump, step. And just, it gets silly, it gets ridiculous. And then in the end, he's like, well, what if I finished it with like, you know, and then I just do a double spin, and he like jumps and spins around, lands on his feet, does it again, and then throws his hat up in the air. And she's like, wow, that's amazing. And she's like ready to let him go. He has aced the field sobriety test and is about to be sent on his way. But she pays him a compliment. She says, wow, that was really amazing. You must be a dancer or something. And he goes, nah, I'm just drunk. And bam, she's gone. Right? Why? Because you have the right to remain silent. Okay? You have the Fifth Amendment right not to self-incriminate. However, if you choose not to use that right to remain silent, well, then what happens is, I was speeding, officer, you're getting a speeding ticket. I'm drunk, officer, then you're intoxicated, you're under arrest, right? The second you make an admission of guilt to law enforcement, that's a confession. And the guy proved that he was still good to drive, but then admitted to being intoxicated, admitted to being drunk, and so now he's getting arrested. So if you get pulled over when you're an adult and you've had a drink or two, okay, and they do the field sobriety test, understand that that's them giving you the chance to prove that you're okay. And then B, do not admit to stuff. Okay? If you get pulled over, like I said, don't admit to the things that you've done, but put it in this form of a question. Was I driving too fast? Did I forget to signal? Was that last lane change, like illegal? In the form of a question is not an admission of guilt. Flat out statements, that's an admission of guilt. All right? If you just learn that, your lawyers will love you. Now, Jackie's story. So Jackie and Reggie are a couple of people that basically changed people's perceptions of drunk driving so hard that I'm not going to say they single-handedly did it, but no two people have had a greater impact on drunk driving. Now, what you're about to watch is a video from The Faces of Drunk Driving. There was a program that got started where real victims of drunk driving, real drunk drivers, got up and made themselves counted, made themselves heard, and shared their stories so that people could see that it's not just, statistics, it's an actual person. All right. No one has made a greater impact on the Faces of Drunk Driving, on our awareness of drunk driving in the United States than Jackie. All right, Jackie Saborito is, she's a hero at this point. She's probably saved more lives than, like an EMT at the end of his career because of her bit. So let's go ahead and get to know her and Reggie, find out their story, and y'all can see why, she had such a dramatic impact. No, come. Can I get upset?
Jackie was beautiful, with pretty brown eyes and thick brown hair.
She was always a lot of fun. She loved to laugh and loved to dance. She was a great dancer.
We'd go to the beach. She loved to jet ski.
After college, she had planned to take over her father's business, but now who knows? Her life will never be the same.
Everyone liked Reggie. He knew how to have a good time.
Reggie was definitely a jock. He had lots of friends, played a whole bunch of sports.
He hadn't had that new blue SUV for very long, and you could tell he was crazy about it.
Reggie's not the kind of guy you would have expected to get into trouble and end up where he did.
This is where 20-year-old Jackie Savarito wanted to be. She left her family in Venezuela to come to the United States to learn to speak English. Reggie Steffi was a senior in high school. He played baseball and football. College was in his future. One of his prized possessions was the SUV he had customized. Early one Sunday morning in the fall of 1999, Jackie's and Reggie's paths crossed. In a split second, their lives would be changed forever. Just a few hours earlier, Jackie had been at a birthday party with some of her new friends. Reggie got together with friends and drank beer after work Saturday evening. Although Texas has a zero-tolerance law that makes it illegal for anyone under 21 to buy or possess alcohol, later that night he went to a party and drank some more. It was late when Jackie and her friends left the birthday party. Neither she nor the driver had been drinking. Jackie rode in the front seat. About the same time, Reggie was also driving home. He was drunk. Reggie's SUV crossed the center line and hit the car Jackie was riding in head-on. A fire started in the engine and spread to the inside of the car. Two of Jackie's friends died instantly. Jackie's legs were pinned under the dashboard. Trapped, Jackie begged for help, but rescuers could not get her out. Engulfed in flames, she screamed for 45 seconds. Then there was silence. Other than a few bruises, Reggie didn't seem to be hurt. He was taken to a hospital. He was okay, except for one thing. The blood test showed he had been drinking. Police officers arrested him and took Reggie to jail. Jackie was barely alive when she arrived at the hospital. She was burned over most of her body. Her hair was gone, so were her nose and her ears. Her eyes were scorched, and she was almost completely blind. The fingers on both of her hands had to be amputated. The pain was indescribable and constant. She depends on her father to take care of her. Jackie spent months in the hospital. She fights every day to recover. Since the crash, she has had 50 operations, and many more will be necessary. When she can, she goes to school to improve her English. Reggie Steffi was tried and convicted for causing the deaths of 2 people while he was driving drunk. He is now in the state penitentiary.
I went from a football field on Friday to a prison cell on Sunday. That quick. Through the choices I made on one Saturday. And so it can happen. I had never been in any trouble before in my life. I had never gotten any DWIs or gotten in trouble with alcohol at all. But the one time that I made that horrible decision, and one time that I got in trouble, one time, it was devastating. And the fact that drinking and driving isn't a joke, it's not something to play around with. It's real, and these are the consequences. All of a sudden, you're in this whole new world, here you go, and you're by yourself. You're alone. And it's a shock. You always have a correctional officer telling you what to do and when to do it. Everywhere you go, you get strip searched, and make sure you're not bringing anything in or taking anything out where you're not supposed to take it. The lights come on at breakfast at 2 o'clock in the morning and stay on because people come and go. Lights out is at 10:30. It's definitely not like sleeping at home. It's a sparse lifestyle. I probably miss the most. I miss my family, my friends, the people that I've known all my life. They've always been a top priority for me, and something that I've always cared very deeply about. So that is probably the hardest thing to deal with.
Completamente diferente mi vida.
My life before was completely different from that of today's. I was independent, 100% independent. I depended on my father financially, but I could do most things on my own, almost everything.
Podía hacer muchas cosas por mí sola, ¿no? Casi todo.
I attended college, drove my car, occasionally went to parties, danced flamenco.
Bailaba flamenco.
In other words, a full agenda for a 20-year-old.
20 años, ¿no?
What happens now is that I am a bit more afraid because I don't trust myself. Not because I'm a different Jackie internally. It's rather that externally I can't do what I could do before.
My father is helping me to do the regular things like put on my clothes or cook the food. He cares me because my vision is not very good. Right now I don't have a specific goal. You know, I want to finish studying English. I want, to keep going with my treatment. It's very difficult because in the past, before the accident, when all the doors were open for a regular young person, and in my case, it's harder because most of the doors are closed, no?
I'm a normal person. I was a normal high school student. Anybody can come to prison, and anybody can be involved in a drinking and driving collision. It's not something that just happens to alcoholics or the trouble kids.
Something I have always dreamed about but never thought of fulfilling was to be a singer. But of course, there's no way I could be a singer now, because singing nowadays requires many physical qualities, which I regrettably no longer have.
Depression can come up real quick when you realize all the things that are going on around your family and that you're missing.
One doesn't know what's worse, if to die or be left in this condition. There are times that I wonder, why was I left like this? Why didn't I die? Why did I remain here?
Knowing what's happened, knowing the damage that I've caused to so many people and so many families, it's something that I can't describe to anybody.
The person that caused my accident destroyed my life completely.
And the prison sentence is nothing compared to the life sentence that I'm going to live with, knowing what I did and the consequences of what I did. The loss of life. It didn't have to happen. Period. Not too long ago, I was in high school, and I was out there, I was making the same decisions that most of you were making. I was going out there on the weekends, and I'd hang out with my friends, and I'd drink. We'd drink. It was the thing to do. But you see, one of the bad decisions that I made was getting behind the wheel to go home. And you could very easily make that same decision. You might have made it before. But I want to let you know you have a choice. There are a number of things you can do. First of all, if you don't drink, you can't be impaired. But you can probably call one of your friends that hasn't been drinking. Or maybe get a designated driver in the first place so you don't have to wait till the last minute. Or you can even call your parents. And You might have to suffer a little consequence for it, but I'm sure they'd be much happier having you home alive than in a body bag or behind bars. So I can get up here and I can tell you not to drink. I can tell you not to drink and drive. But in the end, the decision is going to be yours. And you have to make that choice. And so I hope you make the right decision and not the same decision that I did.
My name is Jacqueline Saborido. This is a picture of me before I was hit by a drunk driver. Before the car caught fire. Before 2 of my friends died. Before I needed more than 40 operations. This is me when my life was just like anyone else in college. This is me after being hit by a drunk driver.
Man, that one commercial had a tremendous impact. Because that thing was on the TV like just all the time. Now, if y'all don't know what commercials are, those are these things that, it's like when someone doesn't pay the extra for Hulu and you gotta watch an ad. Well, that's commercials. Commercials are involuntary ad breaks every 8 minutes on broadcast television. I'm not trying to insult you. My daughter was not aware that commercials were a regular thing on broadcast TV because we just don't watch broadcast TV. So, let's talk about alcohol and some of the things that we believe that are not correct. And let's talk about how alcohol's impacted my life. Well, first and foremost, I've lost quite a few people to drugs or alcohol addiction. I've got an uncle that basically spends all his time on the streets, and we know that one day he's just going to get found dead because all he does is go out there, hustle, get himself a little bit of money, and then he buys alcohol and he gets hammered. And that's an everyday thing. So I mean, I've dealt with it, and I've dealt with it personally. But let me start off with the lie that I tricked myself into believing. The lie that I told myself must be true because I've seen empirical evidence of it time and time again, and it's not true. It's bull. It's a misnomer. It is an erroneous belief, and that erroneous belief is if somebody likes you, they want to drink alcohol with you. All right. To be precise, if somebody likes you, they are more likely to invite you to go drinking with them. But liking you has nothing to do with the drinking. They just want to hang out with you, and drinking is the chosen pastime. All right? Real friends will not be like, hey, you're a bummer. You should be drinking too. They will respect your desire not to drink. It's like, oh, you're a square. No, I just don't feel like drinking. Right? So, but I believed the lie that when someone cares about you, when someone wants to be your friend, they offer you alcohol because my first friend, because the man who would be my uncle, and the friends that I made when I first started going to college. Well, let's talk about that first friend real quick. Now, his name was Joey, same as my current boss, different person though. Would have to be. Well, Joey was a complicated kind of person. Joey had his license since he was like 13. And so he'd been going to Mexico, and that was the thing back in the day. You drive to Mexico, drink at a bar, because if you're old enough to like see over the bar, they would serve you. That was the gag. And then they would drive back, and boom, day was had, alcohol was drank, and now we're back at school and riding the bus home. And that was kind of the thing that him and some of the people in his clique did on a regular basis. But here's the situation there, folks. Choosing to drink and drive regularly, it's not about that one time. It's not about, being a bad person or a good person. Because did he have his faults? Yeah, he got into trouble. He drank and drove. I know for a fact he smoked pot because he offered me a few times, and I was like, nah, hard pass. My mom's a cop, not going to fly. And he had his problems, but that doesn't mean that because he was bad he drank, or he drank too much and that made him a bad person. Because let me tell you a little something about him. Without ever telling me, as a matter of fact, for 2 years I did not know this. He went up to a bunch of these people that were persecuting me, and when I say persecuting me, I want you to imagine the worst bullying you've ever experienced, and now add broken bones to whatever that experience was. And that was basically what I was going through on a regular basis. I think I had a solid 2 months in junior high where nothing on me was broken or fractured. That's about it, and that's counting my summers. So, not a great time for me. And Joey went up and told just anyone and everyone that he knew that he could intimidate into leaving me alone, that if they messed with me, they messed with him. And I didn't know this. And then a couple weeks later, he introduced himself to me and became my friend because he saw the plight that I was going through. So, was he a good person? Hell yeah, he was. One of the best people I've ever known. But the thing that he did, the thing that he always did, was invite me to go out on a little drinking expeditions. And I'd always have a no. I'd always have a different no. I'd always have a different no. And then one day in high school, we're freshmen, and I'm still having a little bit of a hard time, but it's better. It's been better for a couple of years. I don't know why, but it has been better for a couple of years. And high school, I managed to go through no broken bones, no suspensions, only a couple like real bad beatings. He asked me again, and I'm like, no. But you know what? You have one for me, and next time we're going together for sure. So you have one more for me. And I blamed myself about that one for a while, because the next day I arrived at school, and the way I found out that he'd been protecting me for a couple of years was kind of tragic. I was looking around for my friend because everyone was like in those little, the little groups that people get into when something happens, and now everyone's like passing the information. Well, I guess y'all don't have to do that anymore because social media just disseminates information in a heartbeat. But this was before social media, before everyone had a cell phone. This was back when the rumor mill was straight up people talking and mistakes would get made. And so everyone's in their little groups and everyone's talking, and this guy comes up to me, and I haven't seen this thug, this goon, this villain of my own personal story in like a year and a half. And the last time I saw him, he like kicked me in the face and knocked me unconscious. So I was really okay with him not interacting with me. But this goon comes up to me while I'm looking for my friend, trying to find out what the heck's going on around school that everybody seems to be talking about. And he tells me, hey, now that that fool's dead, nobody's going to protect you no more, and you're mine. And I was just utterly and completely confused. I'm like, man, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And I told him to bugger off, but in a much more American way. And, I tried to walk away, go look for my friend Joey, find out what the heck's going on. And he's like, and he spins me around, and he tells me, didn't you hear me? Now that fool, your Angel de la Guardia is gone. Who's going to protect you, huh? Who do you got now that fool Joey's dead? And then my brain went, huh. Oh. And in that moment, I understood what he'd been doing for me since before I met him, because it was like right after I stopped getting into trouble on a regular basis for trying to defend myself, that I got to spend actual time at lunch, and that's when he became my friend. And so I know how the timeline worked out. I know he interceded before me and him were tight. And so that day, I nearly got expelled for what I did to that bully because of the horrifying, massive amount of information that he just thrown on me, that my best friend, my only real friend at the time, was gone, and that he was single-handedly responsible for me not having to endure broken bones. And I mean, that's That's a gift right there. If you've ever had to experience that, now imagine someone could just make that stop. That's. I mean, for me, it was probably what gave me the strength to keep on going. Right. Without him intervening, I may not have made it this long. Right? Because it was tough for me. I was awkward. I was annoying. I fell in love with everybody that was nice to me, and that is just super lame. Nobody even wants to be your friend when you do that crazy stuff. But I was just desperate for friendship, desperate for attention, and that's who I was. And he didn't care. He's like, "You need a friend," and that's how he became my friend. But that day before that I told him to have an extra drink for me, he crossed a double solid yellow line, killing all 4 passengers of his car, and 2 passengers out of 3 in the other vehicle. The other vehicle was a dad and his 2 kids, his son and daughter. I don't know who survived. I could not read the article. I could not look at it. Every time something about it came up on the news, and it was on the news a bit, I just had to turn it away. I had to turn it off. I had to just not be watching because it was very hard for me to deal with. And for a little bit, there was this thing called Joey's Law, and now it's just a law that says if you are returning from Mexico and you are minor driving, you will be checked for some kind of intoxication to prevent that sort of thing from happening. Yeah. Okay, so that was the first time I really lost someone due to alcohol, and it was a little tough. I was absolutely heartbroken, but his friendship helped me be a little less weird, and I made a few friends after that on my own. Especially those people that knew me and him were tight. Like, they gave me that opportunity to like unload a little on them, and they found out that Steve could be okay. All right. So now we fast forward a couple of years, and my aunt, this woman who has loved me more than probably my own mother, to this point in my life, has just met the man of her dreams, and they've started going out, and immediately she's like telling my mom that she knows he's the one. All right. And he comes into my life, and he's introduced to my mom, to me, and so this is our nephew. And just without a hesitation, without a moment's notice, because I was hers, I was his. And I grew up without a dad. My mom was a single parent. She had the choice to support or nurture. Nurture is where you take care of them emotionally. Support is where you take care of them financially. She chose to support. So I didn't get pretty much any nurturing, except for what my aunt could throw my way when she wasn't at work. Law enforcement's long hours, it sucks, but oh well. Made me who I am, right? But he comes in, and just right away, and within a few weeks, he's coming over just to visit me and hang out because my tia loves me so much, and she's at work right now, so he might as well do something productive, hang out with his new favorite nephew, that's what he would call me. And from day one, it was Uncle John, because I knew it. I saw it in them both, and I knew. Now, fast forward a few months, and he's proposed, and their wedding is like a week away. And, everyone's just kind of excited, that there's going to be a wedding. And I come home one day and just got a big smile on my face. It's just a good day. I know that the next weekend we got that wedding coming up. It's going to be fun. I love family get-togethers. I get to spend time with La Raza, have a good time with the cousins. And it was going to be a good day, right? And phone rings, and back in the 90s, there was this thing, in the 80s too, but there was this thing where we had actual phones that were connected to a wall, and signals had to travel through wires to make it to your house. It was called a home phone, and there was these little micro delays in the ringer, and me and my little brother were actually very good at this, even though we were raised separately, but when you hear the phone ring, you can tell how close or how far the person calling you is based on a micro difference in between the rings themselves. It wasn't like the cell phone where it's like that. Once it starts ringing and then it's in that perfect timing. No, it's like the signal's got to bounce back and come back, and then you find out it's ringing. And that little delay could let you know. And so I heard it ring, and I immediately knew who it was, because only one person could call us and get that fast a ping, get that faster response, would be my aunt that lived there like half a block away from us. Anyone else, there would have been a slightly longer appreciable delay. And it was just this thing that I spotted. So I start smiling automatically, because obviously it's going to be something about the wedding. She's something else. Maybe they're going to take me to go try cake. I was kind of excited. There was a promise of that as the wedding approached, to figure out which flavor they wanted, which cake. And now right here I'm going to break the story, and I'm going to tell you about this movie called The Princess Bride. And why is this pertinent on Drugs and Alcohol Day? Well, this character named Inigo Montoya, played by the tremendous performer Mandy Patinkin, who's still performing today, although he's like 130 pounds heavier, is just completely drunk because he feels that he has failed the Man in Black, the main character, the Dread Pirate Roberts. And he hears this scream, and it just snaps him out of his drunken stupor. And he turns to his buddy, who's played by Andre the Giant, which is just an iconic individual. If you don't know who that is, you should watch A Princess Bride. It is just an amazing movie. It's inconceivable how good that movie is. The guy that played Rex is one of the characters, or Rex from Toy Story. He was one of the characters in that movie. Really great flick. But Mandy Patinkin goes, "You hear that? That is the sound of ultimate suffering. Only someone that has lost their true love can make this sound." And he says it with such conviction and such force of will that you know his words are true. But I didn't get it. Like the performance from Cary Elwes, the guy from Saw, that like the white guy that cut off his own foot. I did not get the reference. Now let's jump back into my house. Phone rings. I know it's the Estela, and my mom answers the phone. It's one of the rare times that she was home at the same time as me, but she was getting ready to go to work, and she answers the phone, and I'm smiling, and then I just see her face drop, and then I see her like try to sit down, but she misses the couch and just slides onto the floor and doesn't even fix herself. She's just immediately crying. Like she just let go and just started weeping. And I grab this phone, and I'm a little horrified by it, but I pick it up expecting, maybe my grandma died or something. And then I hear it. And I hear that sound, and my heart just like ripped right back to that movie, because at that moment, at that point in my life, I knew what he was talking about. When you hear the sound of someone having lost the person that means the most to them, you know exactly what that sound means. And it hurts. It doesn't matter if you know that person or not. If you have compassion, you are going to feel pain. Knowing who it was and automatically knowing what it was just destroyed me. What had happened was, the night before, at like 3 o'clock in the morning, there was kind of an argument with my Uncle John's family, where some allegations made that my aunt would be unfaithful because she was in law enforcement, and that all women in law enforcement were like that. I mean, that was never anything that I'd ever had any experience with, being raised by a woman in law enforcement. But hey, my aunt spending as much time as mom got a chance to. And clearly he didn't like that. He didn't like having someone that he was supposed to be there, someone that was his family, his blood, someone that he loved, telling him that his future wife was going to cheat on him just because of her chosen profession, which happened to be the same profession as him. It was two cops that just fell in love with each other. So after having been drinking and having been put in this terrible rage, now I did mention that being in a strong emotional state will negatively impact your ability to drive. Well, imagine what it does when you're also intoxicated. He demanded his keys from this person that made these allegations, and as he was too intoxicated to find them himself, And then they produced them for him. They just handed him his keys, and he got on a motorcycle. Now, we didn't find out until the next day at 3, because at 3 in the morning he drove off. And by 3:20 he crashed into the back of an 18-wheeler. He was declared dead by 5 in the morning, and then they finally got a hold of his family at around 3 o'clock to talk to them, find out what happened. And it was a little closer to 4:30 when law enforcement finally made a courtesy call. Now, when someone passes away, their family has to be told first. Has to be. And since my aunt and him weren't married, she wasn't the first one that was told. She wasn't even like in the top 15 because his family was contacted and they were asked about the night before and things like that. There was an investigation underway. And once the mother had been told, once the family had been told, then someone gave my aunt the courtesy calls like, hey, and, you know, it just kind of let her know over the phone. Now, he crashed into the back of an 18-wheeler because he was not focused on driving, because he was intoxicated, and because he was driving the most dangerous vehicle that he owned. And his life was lost in that moment. And just like that, another wonderful person that used to sneak me little half beers and stuff when my mom wasn't looking, and he'd been doing so for about a year, was gone from my life because they chose to drink and get behind the wheel. That's pretty depressing. I lost my best friend. I lost the closest thing that I had to a dad, other than my grandfather, to alcohol. I had a cousin really hammered trying to cross the street to visit me, get hit by a car and lose their life. I barely knew them. We like knew we were family. We knew how we were family, but we just never talked. And apparently the day that it just dawned on them that they should come by and really visit, they stepped in front of a car. So that happened. And then there's me. Now, me, I learned the lesson that, hey, when people like you, they want to drink with you. They want to be your friend. They want to drink with you. Because when I went to college, again, for the third time, it was reinforced. Because when I made friends, the first thing they did was say, hey, we're all going to go to Matt's place. We're going to go drink. You should come along. Because I had been accepted, right? I was part of the circle. And I was like, oh, no, I don't drink and drive. He's like, no, it's cool. Matt's got a big place, lives by himself. We all just kind of crash out, and then we'll like barbecue the next day, and then everyone takes off. Like, oh, okay, well, that sounds amazing, yeah. So, you know, it was reinforced in me. If friends want to drink with you. Went to spring break a couple times with these friends, you know, and so, but then my grandfather passed away while I was attending school, and I kind of took that as an excuse to give up on myself because I didn't realize that it was me giving up on myself. I thought that my grief at losing the only other father figure I ever had, my dad came into my life when I was in my 20s because he'd rather make money than be around. But that's a lot of dads, right? A lot of parents in general. But yeah, I quit on myself because I thought it was okay. Because I thought that the grief was a good enough reason to throw my future into the garbage. I shouldn't have. I should have dealt with my grief. I should have talked to somebody, worked through it, and then continued to attend school. Because without an education, there's no damn money. And without money, yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, but it's very easy to be miserable when you can't afford your regular bills. When you feel yourself slipping into debt, it's super easy to get miserable. But I was unaware of my anxiety and depression at the time, so I didn't properly handle it. I quit on myself, and I shouldn't have. Now, fast forward another couple of years, and I'm now working at a bar, and I'm old enough to legally drink, even though I've been drinking and not driving for a while, because, you know, when you hang out with your friends, you drink. That's what your friends are supposed to do with you. That's a lie. Do not believe that. That is something that I was led to believe through just, like, yes, they were my friends, and yes, they wanted to drink with me, but that does not mean that, that's what makes you friends. But for whatever reason, I've drawn that conclusion. The drinking was something sacred between the best of buds. So I get a job at a bar as a DJ. I play music for a living. What do you do, Steve? I motivate people to spend their hard-earned money on alcohol and dance like goofy people. That sounds kind of awesome. It is. I loved it. I loved the sense of power. I loved being able to motivate and change the attitude of a room with just a few songs and some words coming out of my mouth. And so for me, it was magical. And after about a month, I was actually doing very good at my job, even though I'd never had any kind of experience before. I kind of got the job because I showed up and I could say, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to blah, 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 home of the longest happy hour." And, I could say this stuff. It sounded good on the microphone. So they were like, "Sure, why not? You can try it out. If you suck, we're going to fire you." A month later, I no longer suck. I now have something like 5,000 songs that I can play from. I have something like 10 or 15 regulars that I know will spend over $200 at the bar. And if I can get them in a good mood, they kind of like pick up the crowd around them with that expenditure that they make. And so they'll be good for business when they're happy. And so I do that. I see my regulars come in and I make them happy. And then after about 2 months, I'm not only doing a good job, but people are recognizing that I'm recognizing them as they come in. So now they start approaching me at the DJ booth. It's like, "Hey, every time I come in here, you throw down a Beatles song." And I'm like, "Well, you love the Beatles. You start dancing when the Beatles comes on." It's like, "I've never talked to you. How do you know that?" Because I watch the club. That's all I do. I watch y'all and I learn what makes y'all happy, and I make y'all happy. And he's like, "Well, I'm going to make you happy." And he bought me a drink. And it kind of kept going and kept going. And now I've been working there for 3 months. And now I have at least 24 regulars that come in 6 days a week. And each of my regulars will buy me a drink or more during my shift. So at the end of 3 months, I'm getting 12 to 14 drinks every day. And I'm taking them because they're my friends. And your friends want to drink or want you to drink. And therefore you drink them, because I was too stupid to think otherwise. Because I could not go, "They're giving me a tip in the form of alcohol. I'd prefer the cash." Okay? But 10 to 14 drinks every day, and now I'm doing a good job. And now I'm milking it. Now I'm playing the songs that I know are going to get me drinks, going to get me tips. And now I'm making, in like 4 hours, $300 take-home money. In 4 hours, I'm making home the kind of money that I've never made again since I worked at that bar. But the accessibility of alcohol just does not work for me, because I have a hard time saying no. And I keep drinking. And I keep doing a good job. And my boss buys me drinks at the beginning of my shift. And then the bartender is giving me drinks as soon as I get there. And before I know it, without even realizing it, I actually didn't figure it out until I was here. And I did the math on sobriety. I was drunk 24/7. On my day off, or on the best day I had during the week, I'd stop at the liquor store, buy 2 bottles with the money, or half of the money that I made that day. So sometimes I drank really good stuff, sometimes I drank lame stuff, but I always had enough to buy a couple bottles, because even on my worst day, I still went home with over $100. That's pretty good for like a Wednesday, all right? And so I was drunk 7 days a week. I was always drinking. I would wake up drunk. I would drive to work still drunk. And then I would start drinking alcohol, and the headaches would go away. And I would start feeling less nauseous. And I would start feeling more relaxed. And I would feel better. Why? Because I was already succumbing to alcohol addiction. I needed it. My day started, I went straight to work, and the bartender already had drinks for me by month 4. It was just like everything's ready to pour. And so I did this for 3 months. 4, 5, 6. And then on month 6, I have an amazing night. I made $600 in 4 hours. I got given 20 drinks and more than 2/3 of those were my favorite kind of drink, like my favorite alcohol, and a half a dozen of those were $50 shots. I drank $300 worth of shots on top of another $100 worth of alcohol that night. It was an amazing night. It was a Friday. And I get out of work, and there's another DJ that he did like the peak hours, right? I made $600 before peak. It was epic. He made like $1,000 that night. It was just popping. But I'm intoxicated. I'm really, really drunk. All right, I've had like 20 drinks. And when we talked about drinks, we know that 5 drinks is enough to be legally intoxicated. Well, I was so far past that, I was already at the point where I could have just died. Like, at that point, it had only been 4 hours since I got to work. Well, 5 hours since I got to work, because I got there an hour early to start drinking before my shift started. Because I was a full-blown alcoholic. And so best case scenario, I was at like 0.28, 0.25. But I hand my keys to the bouncer, and I'm like, hey, buddy, do not let me leave if I'm in this condition. He's like, okay. So I sober up a little bit. I'm probably down to like 0.18, maybe 0.2. And this guy comes upstairs with 5 drinks on a tray. Now, I did not notice this at this point, but that day I had already pissed my pants. Because when you get really drunk, you kind of lose sense of feeling, and that can happen. And I'd already thrown up on my shirt a little bit. Also did not realize that I just like burped and vomited come out, and it was on the front of my shirt. But I'm sitting up there, and the other DJ's being cool. He's not pointing this stuff out. He doesn't want to embarrass me. He's my friend, and he was a great guy and he is a great DJ. He's on the radio now. But anyway, this guy comes up with these 5 drinks on a tray, and my friend, the DJ, is like, and I'm like, interesting, because he's turning them down, so I know they're strong. And so I asked what they're called, and he's like, these are quicker messer-uppers. Now, it was not messer, but it was quicker, and it was uppers, and, well, I'm sure you can probably figure out the middle word based on the context. But, man, they messed you up. So I was like, may I have one? And he's like, well, these are for the 2 of you. And my buddy was like, no, I don't want any of those, thank you. Not tonight. And I was like, well, don't mind if I do. And my buddy, the DJ, looks at me, he's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, because I was intoxicated. Now, had he gone a little longer and explained to me, Steve, you're already very drunk, you're going to have to drive home in like 2 hours, you really should not do this, that would have been a little more beneficial to me. But he did minimally try, like, are you sure? Okay, just be careful, don't drink too much. And of course, I did the exact opposite. I grabbed 2 and blank, and immediately my stomach was like, you fool, what have you done? Blah. And now I've thrown up all over the front of me. That's so sexy, right? That's what drinking does, is it makes you sexy. Vomit now just running down the front of my shirt. And I'm embarrassed because this time I'm very clearly aware of it. And it's even like the color of the 2 drinks that I just drank, so I feel super bad. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm going to go clean up. I'll come back and I'll take care of this. And I go and I wash up in the sink, and I come back to the DJ area and I clean up the floor with some paper towels. And I look back to the tray and there's 5 again. And he's like, well, you threw up 2 of them, so I ordered you 2 more. Nobody throws away my good alcohol. And I was like, well, I did say I was going to have them, didn't I? And this very bad person just smiles and goes, yes. And so I drink the 5 quicker messer-uppers. And this time I keep them down. Now, mind you, I later found out that there were nearly 5 shots worth of alcohol, nearly 5 drinks in each one of these, and I had 5. So that would have put me at 0.4, okay? Just those. I was already around 0.18. Take away another hour or another 3 hours, and the club closed, and everyone finished doing what they had to do, and then finally the bouncer was like, you got to go home, and he handed me my keys while I was still very, very intoxicated. Very intoxicated. The drunkest I'd ever been in my life. In numbers, I was probably in the neighborhood above 50%. I could have just dropped dead at any moment. I had tremors in my hands. My vision was blurred. And, well, I'm driving down the road. And it is just taking forever, and I hate it, and I just want to get home, and I don't know why I drank so much. And I look up at a sign, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness I'm on Sherry. Just a few more miles. And I blink, and I open my eyes, and it was weird because it just said Sherry, but now the sign said Bryan. Now, if you don't know Mission, I drove a mile on a road that used to slant about 40 feet to the right and is now pretty darn straight after they did some new construction stuff and redid the lanes. I passed out on the roadway with cruise control set. Remember cruise control? It's that thing that will speed you into a brick wall because all it does is maintain your speed. Well, I, being a smart drunk, thought to myself, I don't want to get pulled over for drunk driving or speeding and get found out that I'm drunk driving, so I'm going to set my cruise control. And so when I passed out, I drove for a mile unconscious. That was some straight up Jesus take the wheel. And when I woke up and realized what had just happened, I had got off the roadway. I took the next exit. I drove a few streets down and I turned and I hit a neighborhood and I just pulled into someone's driveway and I started crying. Because for the life of me, I could not understand why any deity, any God, anybody would waste a miracle on me. But I had just driven a mile unconscious without crashing, without killing anyone, without hitting anyone, without so much as a scratch to my vehicle on the day that I was the drunkest that I've ever been. And I'm in their driveway, and now mind you, this is 3 o'clock in the morning, and my headlights are on, and after about 5 minutes, I hear the noise of like a front door opening, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna scare these people half to death. I put my vehicle into reverse, back out, and take off. And now I'm driving down a road that's gonna take me basically past 2 police departments, but to my house. And by some miracle of God, by just sheer good fortune, I make it home. And at this point, the alcohol has all completely hit, and I am now crawling out of my vehicle. Like I get out and I almost immediately collapse to the ground. I crawl to the stairs, get up, unlock my door, open it up, climb in. I live in a trailer at the time, and crawl my happy self to the bedroom. I pull out my phone and I call my mom. One of those old phones that didn't bend or flip or fold or anything, but just had buttons like it was in our pictures. And I confessed that I'd been drinking and driving and that I'd been making a mistake, but tonight I realized what I was doing because it scared the hell out of me. I did not understand why I deserved to be alive. I did not understand why anyone would waste a miracle on me, and I didn't understand how I wasn't responsible for someone's death. But by some miracle wasted on me, I survived. I made it. And that day I quit drinking. And shortly after, my performance at work changed because I was having that fight with alcohol. Because the next day I was still drunk, and the next day I was finally hungover. 2 days after my little fiasco, I was finally sober and feeling absolutely miserable, and my performance sucked because I was feeling miserable, and my boss offered me a drink, and I was like, no, I quit drinking. And so that kind of started friction because you didn't turn down the boss. You didn't tell the boss no. He had one of those egos. A couple months later, I've lost my job, and I'm very happy for it. Yeah, the money was fantastic, but I asked the bartender to stop sending me the drinks that people buy me and send me dummy drinks. So like if they bought me a whiskey, he'd put a little bit of fucking Coke and some water in a glass, mix it up, and then just pour that in there so it looks like it, and send me that, and then give me the money for the drink afterwards. Well, he was giving me $100 every day, and I was fine with that. Until one day, one of my regulars is like, he comes up and he sees the 5 little empty shots, and he's like, wow, you already finished them? I was like, yeah. He's like, so what'd you think? I was like, oh, they were excellent. He's like, yeah, I knew those were your favorite. And when he said that, I realized those were $50 shots that he paid for. So I'm like, sweet, I'm going to have like $300 at the end of the night because of him and the other drinks, and I can still give the bartender something. And what does the bartender give me? He gives me $100. And I was like, no, what about the drinks that this person bought? And then he said, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot about those, but that really fake, like Karen-esque, I've been caught, now I must lie to protect myself and maintain my innocence. And I realized that it didn't matter how much money I was getting. I could have been getting $200 or $300 a night. I was only ever going to see a $100 tip out from that bartender because he wasn't my friend. He didn't have my best interest in heart. That's why he kept giving me them drinks, even though he knew I had a drinking problem. Because he had a drinking problem. A bunch of us did at that time there at that bar. And yeah, it was bad. So getting fired worked really well for me. It really did. It worked amazingly for my sobriety. Now, the next year, I kind of want to have fun. I haven't been drinking, so I go, hey, let's go to spring break. Let's go do something. And we get a place out there, and I know it's going to be a good day because like an hour after we've gotten a place, we actually found a place on the beach for less than $70 during spring break. That was a miracle. And we're driving down to head towards the clubs, and this black SUV cuts my minivan off, and yeah, I'm driving a minivan. I know it's lame, but meh. Cuts my minivan off, and I like lean out the window and give the guy the finger and yell at him. And then Busta Rhymes, if you don't know who that is, Google it. Busta Rhymes leans out of the back seat of this black Escalade with mirror tinted windows. He leans out the window and gives me the double bird, and I'm just so excited. It's Busta Dude that I just gotten flipped off by Busta Rhymes. So I'm like, this is gonna be a good night. So we go to the club, and P.D. Pablo's in concert, or gonna be in concert that evening. That's why we chose that one. And I like his music enough. It wasn't my favorite, but it was enjoyable. But when the concert starts, I get out there and I just start dancing. Like I'm just flowing. I'm enjoying myself. I've got the glow sticks and everything. It looks cool. And the artist just kind of looks at me and he gives me one of the little chin raises and very clearly like to me. And that gets this young lady that was super in love with the artist to come pay me some attention. So now I'm having fun because I'm dancing with somebody at the concert. And then it gives me some dab and the dancing gets more awesome. And I am just having a wonderful time. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to go get some water from the bar. Would you like something? And she's like, no, I'm good. Just hurry back. And I was like, yes, I definitely will. Because I was having a great time. I love to dance. And the fact that the artist gave me a little bit of physical contact made her day, and she was like, he's been chosen. So, I was just having a fun time. I was happy. And then I heard something that not only revolted me, but kind of made me change the way I feel about my own gender for, basically ever. Because I heard more or less the following. She's completely wasted. I've already called the guys. I've got the camera. Everyone else is heading back to the room. And then he gestures and look at her. And I look over and there are 6 guys just surrounding her, maybe 7 or 8, just surrounding her. And you can barely see this young lady dancing with them, but you can tell that she is super intoxicated. You can tell that she is so drunk that just nothing is going to get through that shell of hers, and she's probably not going to remember the evening. Even though what I heard had just set it up to literally be the worst day of her life. And I have always felt that if I am somewhere and my help is needed, then my help will be given. Okay? That is just a rule that I try to live by because, why not? Really? It's a great rule. If I can help you, I will. If everybody did that, well, it'll be a better place. So if I can help you, I will kicks in. But Steve is at spring break. Yeah, I've got some decent height to me, but I've always been kind of fluffy, never muscular. No beard, a very thin little mustache. I look about as intimidating as the partner from 21 Jump Street, not Channing Tatum. That's about how intimidating I really am, or was prior to all this. growing in and me learning the art of being imposing. So I do the one thing that I know no one will attack. Why? Because it is the early 2000s. The gay revolution has happened. And at that spring break, I had already seen one gay guy getting accosted. And then like 15 bystanders came in and literally dragged the jerk that was saying cruel stuff to him to the exit, handed him to security. He's gay bashing, and he was thrown out of the club. And so my brain does the one thing that it thought was going to get this young lady out of what was about to be the worst night of her life. Oh my God, girl, there you are. We've been looking everywhere for you. Sorry, boys. Cinderella's got to get back before midnight if she turns into a pumpkin. And I pull her hand over my shoulder, and I'm dragging her away. And I'm flamboyant as can be. I give a little kissy face at one of the guys that gets all mad at me, and I drag her off. And then I immediately bust out my phone, and I call my cousin. And he can't hear me because he's in the club, and the concert's still going. And then I use the dinosaur text T9 word, and I'm like, found a girl about to get ruined. I had to rescue her, took her outside. Please come to the car when you're done with the club. She's hammered. I'm just going to feed her Powerade and crackers until she feels better. It's something to that effect. And of course, him and his girlfriend at the time both come out within 20 minutes because they're stand-up people. She felt that if she was there, it'd be more believable to the cops that some dude is rescuing a random stranger, preventing that sort of thing from happening, than, just me, her, and my van. And you know what? I wasn't going to argue with that because it was damn fine logic. Okay? People are pretty jaded, and they would have seen the worst because they would have wanted to. Right? Now, 3 hours later, she is thrown up in my hard hat that I keep in my vehicle for, opportunities to work construction. She's thrown up in my hard hat a half a dozen times. Gone through 2 bottles of Gatorade, 2 sandwiches, some crackers, and is still too drunk to tell me where the hell she's staying. But the club is closing. So everyone's coming out, people are walking by, and we're just there. And the police come over and they're like, hey, is everything okay? I'm like, man, she just had way too much to drink. We're just trying to get her a little bit sober so we can get her back to her friends at her hotel, but she can't remember the name of the hotel right now. And he's like, are you her friend? I'm like, yeah. It's just, I'm an acquaintance. I don't want anything bad to happen to her. So I'm taking care of her until I can get a hold of her Beffa. And, that was a lie, but it was mostly true. I was an acquaintance because I had just met her, and I was trying to make sure that she didn't get violated by a bunch of dudes with a video camera and wind up on websites. At about 4 o'clock in the morning, she was finally sober enough to remember that she was staying on the beach. So we drove up and down the beach, and I kept asking her, and I was like, is it tall? Is it short? Are there multiple stories? Is there an elevator? Yes. I'm like, okay, it's on the beach. There's an elevator. Is it this one? Is it this one? And she's like, no, it's not close. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly where you're at. And so we drive down. Is it this one? And she looks out at the beach. She looks across the street. Yes. And so we get her to the elevator. I'm like, are you on the first floor? And she's like, I threw up in that, and points at a potted plant. And I look, and well, there's no vomit in that one. So into the elevator we go. 2nd floor, no vomit. 3rd floor, no plant. 4th floor, we've got a plant and we've got vomit. We've found her floor. We're walking down, and as we're approaching, we hear loud celebratory noises coming from a room. People partying. And she's like, it's this one. Thank God. Go, and I bang on that door like the police. And I explained very clearly what I heard, what was about to happen, the number of individuals that were going to be involved, and that I had just spent the last 5 hours of my life trying to figure out where the heck she was staying just so that I could bring her back. That's how gone she was. I also explained to them that in those 5 hours, I had plenty of time to rifle through her purse, trying to find either a room key so I could figure out where she was staying, or her cell phone. We did find her cell phone. No one was listed as a bestie or a BFA or a BF or BFF on the contacts. Everyone had a name. So I took down the ones that mattered to me, mom and dad. I laid it out very clear to these people that I was going to hang out for one more day, and if I saw her in that condition by herself, I was immediately going to call mom and dad and let them know what the people she came with, almost let happen to her. And I was like, and you, bro? And I pointed at this guy who was like 6'2", 6'3". There is no way they're not going to know who you are. And his face just got like super pale. And so I stayed another day, even though at that point I was totally ready just to go. My spirit of joy had been ruined. But we stayed another day. And as I'm walking down the beach at about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I hear and it's spring break. It's not uncommon to hear that sort of shouting. But it was coming from the direction of the water, so I start scanning and looking. And then I see it, and someone bounces up and back down completely into the water, but I heard it again. So I run directly towards the water, and I see someone standing looking in the direction. It's like, is that your friend that just went under? And she's like, yes. So off came the shirt, the keys, the wallet, the shoes, the cell phone, everything into a pile, and me into the water. And as you know, South Padre Island's not super scary. You can walk like a quarter mile out, and you're still like at chest height or lower, as long as the tide's out. Well, when the tide comes in, that changes, and you can get stuck on what are islands, and there's now very strong currents in between those little islands and, where the sand gets higher. So it's hard to escape that situation. That's where this young lady found herself. Too far out with the tide coming in. Well, I get to her, and she's standing on a high point, but like I have to swim and swim hard for like 20 feet, 30 feet just to get to her, because there is like 12, 15 foot deep section right there that was most likely like sand just kind of shifted, and it created a dune due to underwater currents and just kind of like locked her. She just couldn't go straight. She would have had to try to go around, and it was just scary for her because she tried to get across, and that's when I heard it. But I'm like, I'm here, don't worry, I got you. And then she tries to jump on me. Now, I'd already received first aid lifeguard training while I was living in California, so I grab her by the shoulders and I spin her around before she can claw my face off and drown me, because that's what drowning victims want to do. They want to grab onto you and they want to push themselves out of the water. Well, that just drowns you, and then they drown, and then there's 2 dead people. So what you do is you take control, you get them from behind, throw your hand over across their chest, okay, reach as far as you can, and stroke with the other arm. You want to get that momentum going. You want to kick your legs and feet, tell them to kick their legs and feet as you're towing them along, and you swim towards shore. You get to where you can be. Now, I hit the other side and I get to it, but I find out because she tries to stand and the water is still, she has to jump to get out. She's short. So I scoop her up and I've got her in my arms, but she's still thrashing, still trying to fight me. So again, I have to take her into that carry. Was this arm? I have to take her into that carry where I'm just dragging her behind me because she will not stay calm. I get her to where she's got some breaths, and now I'm taking her back to shore. Except we're going through water that's getting deeper and shallower, and there's points where my head's going underwater. And when I finally get her to shore 2 minutes later, and I'm giving it everything I've got, I'm fucking exhausted, and she's not breathing anymore. So what do? I throw her to the ground, and heavy, considering her size, and I start CPR. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breath. And on that second breath, she throws up, and throws up hard right into my mouth. If you've ever seen that movie 40-Year-Old Virgin, he's like, did you have a daiquiri? Yeah, this girl had been drinking piña coladas and something strawberry, probably, or not strawberry, lime, probably margaritas. And I could taste coconut and lime, real saccharine, sweet, heavy, disgusting in my mouth, because not only did she cough out some salt water, but she also threw up all the alcohol that was in her system. She was very drunk based on the contents of my mouth after she barfed into it. That's super gross, right? That's why they don't do mouth to mouth anymore. Now it's just that hands or that breathless CPR to the beat of Staying Alive. But I get her breathing, and she sits up, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And like I help her stand up, and then she looks at me and then turns to her friend and very clearly states that I was touching her chest when I was swimming back with her. I didn't even want to try to explain. I didn't want anything to do with the situation anymore. I grabbed my stuff, didn't even make sure that my wallet hadn't been looted, and I just walked away. That's okay though, because you don't do something for the thank yous. You don't do something because you want people to be like, "Oh my God, you're amazing." You do it because it's the right thing to do and you were there able to do it. Okay? I had the skills necessary for the gig. I was there, and against all odds, I heard her cries for help. So yeah, that was me being told, "Hey, you're on deck, get to work. This is what we trained you for." So I did what I did. I walk away, and this time I am pissed, and I'm walking straight to where my car is parked. And so I'm walking past a hotel, La Quinta, right there, near where the bridge is. And as I'm walking by, I see a beer bong. Now, a beer bong is a long funnel, or it's a long hose connected to a funnel, and you pour a 6-pack of beer in it, and the objective is to drink all the beer from the hose in one go, and you get super drunk off of one attempt, and, intoxication was had by all. Well, the douche canoes doing this thing have a 2-story one, so it means it's up on a balcony on the second one, and that hose is really long, and in goes one beer, the young lady grabs it, starts drinking, and then the douche canoe up there grabs a bottle of whiskey and pours that in. And she's been practicing for the Olympics, and this is her event, drinks and drinks and drinks and drinks and drinks until basically the hose is empty. And then she pulls it out and coughs because the alcohol finally gets to her throat, and the little bit that's still in there falls out. And she looks at me, and I look at her, and she just, and then falls to the ground. And unfortunately, I immediately recognize the symptoms of alcohol poisoning. She's had too much to drink, her body's starting to purge already, and if something doesn't happen, she could very well drown, stop breathing, all kinds of nonsense. So I run over to her, and when she collapsed, she did in fact stop breathing. So again, fresh vomit on her mouth, I just wiped it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breathe. Somebody call 911, there's a cop around the corner, he's been there all day, get an ambulance out here, and just instructions, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breath. This one did not wake up on me. This one kept breathing, but did not wake up on me. I had to keep going. And when paramedics arrived, they were like, "She's got a pulse, she's stable, and then she's dilated." And they just did the full check, and they had to go straight on to oxygen because she wasn't breathing on her own. They had to pump it in, and they're like, "Hey, you probably just saved her life." I'm like, "Awesome. You go take care of the rest." And I walked away. I just walked away because at that point the officer had already talked to me, and I was like, and I look up and the kids have left. It's 3 Caucasian Americans, blonde hair. The one up there with a funnel had like a green wristband on that could have been from a club, and the officer's like, "That's not really going to help." It's like, "I know, but they got cameras. Maybe you got that there." And I walked away again. Now, within a half an hour of each other, I swam and gave CPR, and then took a walk back towards where I was parked, and then cut across, and again gave CPR. And what happened there with those ladies? Well, the one was drinking and swimming and nearly died for it. Don't combine alcohol and recreational activities, especially those where there's already a risk of death. Like if you're driving race cars, drinking and driving is definitely just not a good idea. If you're going to go out there and hunt, you should not be liquored up and handling a firearm. All right? Just don't do dangerous stuff and drink. Okay? And then the other young lady, don't trust someone else to serve you your drink at any kind of social thing. Okay? Because she was expecting beer, and what did she get? Whiskey chaser. and way more whiskey than was good for her. Okay? She'd already been drinking because it hit her like that. She was probably fairly wasted before they tried that. The regular 6-pack of beer might have been enough for their purposes without trying to kill her, but that's not the direction they went. Right? And then the young lady the night before, way too intoxicated, and now people were going to take advantage of her state. And very cold-heartedly, in a way that would have ruined her. Potentially infected her with something that she was going to have for the rest of her life. And when you're talking, 8 guys, and that's not everybody, the odds for horrible stuff like that happening go up. All right. Now, okay, well, that's drinking, at the beach. Okay, don't do that. Don't drink at clubs. Don't drink, at spring break because, people are monsters. Okay, I get that. I can drink at home, right? I can drink at my parties. So I'm at a party at my house, and this girl that we invited because she's our friend comes up to me at the beginning of the party, and she's like, "Hey, Steve, why don't we go out this Friday? Let's go dancing. I know you like to dance." And I was like, "I just don't like you like that. You're like a sister to me. In no world can I conceive me and you in a physical relationship. It's no. It's just never gonna happen. I'm sorry. I mean, I wish I could because I was really lonely. I really was. But this young lady was just like when I hugged her, it felt like I was hugging a little sister. Like I'd never even once had that kind of thought about her, and that was rare because I was a scumbag back then. I thought about lots of people that way. But her, no. So I'm at a party at my house, and she's there, and then I shoot her down again, and I guess she feels bad at first, but then she starts enjoying herself, and I start enjoying myself, and it's my party. I can drink if I want to, so I have way too much to drink. And when I'm already very drunk, and I still remember this, but I'm already very drunk, and I'm sitting on the couch, and she sits on top of me. She straddles me and starts kissing me, and I'm like, But I'm very drunk, and after a little bit, I do get into it. But I've already told her no, and I'm no longer in a situation where I can legally give consent. I'm very impaired. But she keeps going, and then she does other things, and then it becomes what's referred to as a live show, and my friends cheering give me the courtesy of the room. Like, they all take the party outside and leave us alone so we can do what we're going to do, or she can do what she's going to do. And so that night, I was drinking at home, I drank too much, and my guests excused themselves so that another one of my guests could take me without consent. That's also known as rape. Now, reporting that to the police would have done two things that, I just didn't want to deal with. One, someone that I did see like a little sister, although not no more because she had just done something horrible to me, would have gone to jail, especially since there was like a half a dozen witnesses that saw her start. And the second thing is that I would have felt responsible for the future that she had because of my irresponsibility with alcohol. I would have blamed myself. Like, hey, if I hadn't have drunk so much, I wouldn't have had to put her in jail. And I didn't want to do that to her. I didn't want to have to deal with that. And, I mean, basically, a guy screaming rape is kind of like a bear screaming, hey, I'm cuddly. I'm not going to murder and eat you to a bunny rabbit that he's already tried to eat. It's just not going to work. People aren't going to buy it. They're going to be like, yeah, whatever, buddy. You're full of it. Because that is, unfortunately, very much the attitude that we have. But, gentlemen, things can get worse than that. A buddy of mine was smoking some crack, like you do, with a couple of gentlemen. And they, too, let him get to the point where he could no longer make a rational choice and decision. And then they tried to force him to the ground and strip him and take him. But only because he fought like a cornered badger on crack was his chastity spared. This is a real friend. This actually happened to him. And he had to run away from the situation because they were going to take it. Okay? So, yes, the tee-hee notion of a guy getting raped by a woman, but it could just as likely be a guy that decides to. A woman or a man can be a rapist. It doesn't matter. And then women can be raped by either too. All right. That stupid noodle analogy is like their defense with that sort of thing. But it happens, people, even in the comfort of your own home. So don't put yourself in a situation where you have to concern yourself with, are the people at my party going to take advantage of me? Or are the strangers at this club going to take advantage of me? Is me swimming going to be problematic with the amount of alcohol that I've had? All right? Because, all of these were just normal things, right? There was a young lady at spring break having a good time, and she just kept taking the drinks that people bought her. Because she probably thought, if I buy you a drink, it means that I like you, and she wanted to feel validated. So she validated herself into an intoxicated state that took 5 hours to recover from, just so she was sober enough to help me half-ass identify where she was staying. Another one nearly drowned because she had a few drinks. But, 4 daiquiris is already, boom, you're intoxicated. And you may not be able to have the best judgment because alcohol messes with your judgment. And the other one was just trusting what some people were putting in a funnel. What if there were drugs getting put in their funnel? What if there were some pills getting thrown in to knock her out immediately? She didn't know. She couldn't even see the damn funnel because someone was pouring whiskey in and had no idea until she finally realized what she was chugging and then stopped. That's only a few more minutes. Take it easy. Folks, putting yourself in an impaired situation of being around other people always has a level of risk because just like driving, it's not you need to worry about, it's everyone else's decision, right? We will generally make the best decision for ourselves, right? So I can tell you don't drink and drive because my friend Joey, my very first friend, the guy that saved me beatings and gave me friendship when no one else even wanted to talk to me, including my family, because I had 50 plus relatives at that school. One of them watched me have my arm broken and was eating popcorn, didn't do anything to stop it. But Joey did something to stop it. Joey was my damn hero without ever telling me because he didn't want that to taint our relationship. He didn't want a sycophant. He wanted a friend that respected him for who he was, not for something that was within his power to do. And he was a damn good friend. One of the best people I've ever known. And also a big screw up. And because of that, we lost him way too soon. All right, my Uncle John made some bad decisions. I found out later in life that he did have a drinking problem and that everything was not magical between them, that they did have their problems, but they did love the hell out of each other. And they did want to be together. And he did love me. And I did lose him. Because again, alcohol and anger and some bad choices led to his death. I could have killed any number of people that night. I could have killed myself and I wouldn't have even known it. Okay. Once your body is above about 0.25, 0.26, you start throwing up, you'll start wetting yourself. Anytime you approach half, you just run the risk of your body just stopping. You can have a heart attack, your brain can just shut down because you're not getting enough oxygen to your organs, and you can just die. So not just one miracle, several miracles were wasted on me, saving me that day. But I think I know why now. Because now I get to tell y'all. Now I get to let y'all know about some of these things that have happened. And hopefully, at the very least, you can at least agree that, hey, you know what? I'm going to drink responsibly. I'm going to drink at home. I'm going to drink at a house where I know I'm going to be safe. And I'm not going to do it when there's 50 people around. Okay, so let's use the last few minutes of the lesson, go over types of alcohol, because there are several different types of alcohol, all right, and don't think they're all created equally. All right, we have ethyl alcohol, known as ethanol, all right, that's grain alcohol, okay? Now we have isopropyl alcohol, okay, that's rubbing alcohol, and we have methyl alcohol, okay, methanol, that's known as wood alcohol, right? Ethanol Ethanol is what's found in alcoholic drinks that people consume. Isopropyl and methyl alcohol are freaking toxic and will kill you. But people still find a way to get drunk off them. That is how bad addiction is. That is how bad alcoholism is, that someone will put their life on the line even more than they normally do to get just that little bit more booze into them. Okay? I mean, that is the problem with drugs and alcohol, right? I mean, everybody knows what a crackhead looks like. Skinny, missing teeth, no self-esteem, no self-respect, bad skin, bad hair, malnourished, and burnt fingertips, and they're thieves. They steal whatever they can get their hands on because the addiction is so strong they want to get their next fix. And that is a common response to crack addiction. All right, good buddy of mine stole everything one night from his then wife and child. Anything and everything of value in the house. Even though he'd been given multiple chances to mess up, they kept taking him back. And that night he took everything that mattered. His kid's video game system, the TV, just anything and everything that was worth money to go buy more crack. And then after he got clean, he then had to go explain that was him to his kid. That's hard stuff. Having to explain to your family that, yeah, it was me that stole everything, but y'all already knew that. Having to explain to your child, that's a very different thing. It's a lot harder. And I do not envy the situation that he had. But crack is so good that everybody knows what you wind up looking like, but you still see people doing it. People are still addicted to it. People are out there buying it, knowing what's down the road for them. Okay? That is addiction. Okay? Drugs and alcohol are no different. They can both addict you, and both of them are going to cause severe deterioration of your health. Because when you choose to drink and only drink, you're affecting your body. When you choose to do drugs and only do drugs, you're affecting your body. Okay? Yeah, at least you get some calories from drinking, but they're not healthy ones, and your body does not feel good. Long-term drinking leaves you just feeling absolutely terrible when it comes to getting sober. Okay? Now, not gonna do that one. Now, folks, please do bear in mind that there really is no safe way to be under the influence and drive. All right, but guess what? We now live in a society where at a few presses of your phone, you can request a ride from one location to another. All right. Now, in the video, Reggie says, call your mom, call your dad. Worst case scenario, you may get in a little bit of trouble, but I'm sure they'd rather you was home safe and sound. And yeah, absolutely. But now you don't even have to do that no more, because forget having a friend that breaks their promise to be the designated driver. Now we have an Uber and Lyft. So now we can just get a ride. We just request one. There is no reason to drink and drive anymore. But even those are dangerous situations. Make sure that when you are getting that ride, you're going with somebody that's going to defend your virtue. Because ladies, an Uber driver may pick you up and you may be so far gone that they may be willing to risk that you won't remember what they try to do to you, right? Because people will make bad decisions when they think they cannot be held accountable. That's why people are such monsters on the internet, because there is no accountability there, right? And when a person thinks that they will get away with something there, they are more likely to try something that even they think is wrong, all right? Take a really poor person who would never rob a bank and have like a bank robber bump into them and drop one of 6 bags into their hands as they're climbing out of their car, and they'll throw that damn bag into the car, sit down and wait and just stay quiet. Because that level of temptation can get somebody. And some people, they have their weak moments. So don't put yourself in those situations. Make sure that, you're safe. Don't drink to that point where you're going to black out and you're not going to remember. And if you drink to the point where you just don't feel that it's safe for you to drive anymore, awesome. Make sure that whoever owns that parking area knows that your car is going to stay there. You'll come pick it up tomorrow and get a lift home, get a ride home. Right? Take a friend with you. They can crash out there at your place, or y'all live close to each other, something, anything. But be safe, right? Because bad decisions, they happen quick. All right? We don't even need alcohol to make a bad decision. Someone could choose to bust out their cell phone, look at the screen for 5 seconds, and crash into a car and kill you. You know, one of our students got rear-ended on a lesson because someone else did not think that it was necessary for them to stop when it absolutely was. Okay? People make bad decisions without alcohol all the time, okay? Without drugs all the time. But when we have drugs or alcohol, the decisions that we make can be next level stupid, and we can be putting lives on the line. So, you know, choose to live kindly. Choose to live with courtesy. Choose to live safely. Because we just get this one life, folks. And is it easy getting over being raped? No, it really isn't. Is it easy getting over losing people? I've given this class over a dozen times, and I think this is the first time where like not a single tear was shed. But I also didn't get too deep into details because that would have gotten me. Folks, it's life. Live it the best way you can, and guess what? The less alcohol and drugs you take, the more of that life you're going to remember. You are in charge. You are in control. You can do anything with your life, because every day we choose to make the world a better place, but first do no harm. Every day we make choices and decisions and changes that improve ourselves and our impact on the world around us, because we have the power to do so, because that is what makes us mighty. That is what makes us us. The decisions that you make, the actions that you take, that makes you you. That makes you special. That makes you wonderful. But remember, and this is a paraphrase, but the greatest evil in the world is the inaction of good people. So when you see something wrong happening, when you see something that should not be happening, if you sit there and do nothing, you're doing harm. And not doing harm is as simple as not letting something happen, not idly standing by while something horrible happens to somebody else. Right? Take the opportunity to be a hero like Joey did. Even when there's no acclaim, no credit, no thanks, no nothing. Because a good deed is worth doing simply because it's a good deed. You do your good deed and you walk away. Don't sit back and wait for applause. Because most of the time you don't get them anyway, even when you did the right thing. Because that's life. All right, folks. Now, that is class for today. All right, today was Drugs and Alcohol Day here. The Hernandez Driveway, ladies and gentlemen. So, we're going to be getting together on Monday, right? Our next class is going to definitely be Monday because y'all get the weekend off. How wonderful, right? But we are going to be talking about managing distractions. And then we're going to talk about on Tuesday the effects of driver condition. Okay? Managing distractions, we'll get out of here pretty much on time. Driver condition, we're going to have a little bit of extra time, so we're going to go over how to set the appointment again, or request the appointments for the drive again, how to make the payments on the website again. So if you already got that down and you don't want to hang out for that portion, you can leave after that, but that's going to be on Tuesday. All right. City, country, and highway driving and sharing the roadway on Wednesday. And then we got adverse conditions, handling emergencies on Thursday, as well as nobody beats the train. That's on Thursday. And then Friday is going to be our last day next week, because we're going to talk about insurance and buying a car. I'll post up that day's assignment, Saturday's assignment, and that will be your final 2 assignments, folks. So we just got one more week to go. Bear with me, you're almost done. All right. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Y'all have a fantastic evening. Work on that observation as you ride along, because every intersection matters. You know, stupid can happen at a moment's notice, and crazy drivers will do crazy things at crazy times. So we need to be looking to stay safe, everybody. Now, everyone, I'll see y'all Monday, same bad time, same bad channel, for day 11 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Hope everyone has a fantastic and safe weekend. And remember, every day do no harm. But that means, when we see other harm being done, we don't ignore it either. We do some good. We help out. We make a situation better. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-byes. Have a great one. We'll see y'all Monday. Live at 5 for your afternoon driving lesson. Here with Steve. Deuces. All right, there is that.